To begin, what I'd love to know first, because you were Showtime 1.0. You know, the Lakers, it started in Minnesota with all the 10,000 lakes, and then you were part of it when it came to LA. And all of us here, of course, admire the Lakers and probably imagine us playing at the Forum or at Staples or wherever may they be. So what was it like when basketball went from the back page to the front page, as you said in your book, in this town?
Well, if you live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it snowed every night. Every day you wake up. And the temperature would be like 29 degrees. And what happened, we played during the season. We played, I think, after 3 or 4 games. And then, for some reason, we decided to play during the summer exhibition games out in California. So we went to Bakersfield. We played in Bakersfield, California. And so we went there. You know, we had winter clothes and didn't know. It was 101 degrees there in Bakersfield. And I said, boy, but wouldn't it be great if they had a team out here, you know, because Minneapolis, I love Minneapolis. The people were great and things, but that cold weather couldn't stand. So we played 3 or 4 exhibition games out there. Then we came back to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And one day later, the next thing I know, the owner was calling and having a meeting and stuff. They were moving the team out here to California, which was amazing. I didn't want to start getting rejoiced and all that stuff and that, but it was amazing. Then we moved out there to California, and that's how it all started, from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
You go and you play these epic series against the Celtics. When you look back on those battles, do you think of fun? Do you think of heartbreak? What are some of the thoughts that you have around that rivalry?
Well, I thought that we didn't win the championship. That's number one. Yeah. But I, just thought that, hey, with everyone, that we gave the best, the best we could. And think about it, Boston had a terrific team. And see, when you have a center like Bill Russell, it just makes you an awesome team. That guy is just unbelievable. Couldn't make free throws, but everything else, the intangible things he does, block shots and picks and all that thing. And, he wanted to beat the Celtics, but, we never did. We've gone, I don't know how many finals we went against him. But it was a pleasure, to play against him. That no one thought that we would go that far, with our team.
So you moved to Seattle. What I love about this is when you're playing in Seattle at Seattle University, you go and meet somebody who will end up becoming a lifelong friend of yours, Mr. Bill Russell, prior to a game when you had to sit out for a year. When you met him for the first time, you write in your book that he knew you as Rabbit. Were you surprised that your fame as a player went to a guy like Bill Russell? There's no internet back then.
No, I was surprised he ever paid any attention to me, because Bill, it's like all the magazines, everything is writing about the San Francisco team because they were winning national titles. So, I was, surprised.
You write about this amazing moment where you meet Wilt Chamberlain. And you guys play not in a gym, but you play in the park. He comes up from Philly. You play in the summer in D.C. And there are 3,000 people at this game on the playground. What do you recall about that day? And did you take a moment ever and look out and be like, what? A lot of people here just to watch both of us kind of go back and forth.
No, I never really thought about it. To me, it was just fun. The only thing I thought about was Wilt complaining about every play. Somebody fouled him. Every time he missed a free throw, and he couldn't make free throws to save his life. But, it's fun. We had fun together, playing during the summer, And it was great. I really enjoyed it. The relationship was good because some other NBA players would come down and we'd play in the league and, have a tournament and just have fun.
I want to take you to, I believe it was your second year in the NBA. And you go to play a game in Charleston, West Virginia. And now in athletics, a lot is being made of athletes and their voices. You decided to use yours that night because they wouldn't allow African Americans in a certain hotel. And you decided that you weren't going to play in the game. That, to me, must have been, reading it, it was extremely courageous. I'm curious for you, as you look back on that, what do you remember about that night, that decision in the locker room to say, no, I'm not even going to play tonight?
What I remembered was the mail I got, hatred mail from people, the racism, the names they called and said, but I don't even want to repeat all the stuff that they said, about playing the game. But, the coach, was at least, I thought he was liberal, liberal guy. And so I told him that I'm not going to play. It started off because the place to stay there, it was Teresa's Motel. When I said Teresa's Motel, I'm thinking, hey, boy, we're going to have a problem from the beginning. And so happened, the hotel we wanted to stay in was another hotel, and we couldn't stay in the hotel. And so happened, I got the guys together and said, listen, hey, what's going on? I was the captain of the team. And I said, if we don't stay together, I'm not going to be part of it. And I told the coach that, and he's, well, and so happened, I told him I wasn't going to play, and so I didn't. I didn't play. We lost, and the media the next day, just blasted me. It was unreal. But, I thought, it was the right thing to do.
When you then start to play college basketball for Seattle, you take your team to the national championship and you're playing Kentucky. You write in your book how you felt as though it was 18,997 versus 3 black athletes when you played Kentucky, the way the game was being called. It seemed as though in your life, adversity would show up, and you'd showed up even more. Did you feel like you liked it when it got harder sometimes for you as a performer?
No, I sort of enjoyed it because I've only got overcome it. We'd hang out, being arrogant, cocky, being young, stupid. Well, show them, And when we played Kentucky, it was just the worst officiating that I've ever seen in my life, because I remember early at one play, I was going after basketball and, got the ball in bounds. An official called a bad call. And I just said to the official, and this was early in the first quarter, the beginning of the game. And I told him, I said, listen, you missed it. Guy fouled me. And so when he told me, shut up, boy, I knew I had a problem.
And before we go, I'd love to ask you how you feel about the simple word limits, because you've been pushing through anybody setting limits on you your entire life. So when you hear that phrase, I'm going to put limits on you right now, what would you say?
The what now? Question again?
When you hear the word limits, how do you feel about that word?
Limits?
Yeah.
I never thought about that. Really, like you say limits, I guess, when you say limits, you got to be clarified more. I don't know what you're talking about, limits in sports, basketball, or what, when you say limits.
All of a sudden, as you're playing in the NBA, the ABA is formed. And I thought it was pretty interesting. You're making $100,000 at the time, and you get offered $600,000 to go play in the ABA. Why'd you say no?
Well, because I enjoyed the NBA. It was a league that has proven himself. It's not a league because they started before the other group, and they've folded. But the league has been good to me. I appreciated the relationship and thing I had, with my teammates and thing. And I figure if I'm going to be, successful or remembered for what, it's not going to be in the ABA. It's going to be in the NBA.
It's such a different era now than when you played. Now athletes, as we all know, they have a voice, right? Sometimes it's on Twitter,
right,
or it's on some sort of social media. Your voice was through your actions, right? You didn't play that night in Charleston, West Virginia. You led the group where you weren't going to play in an all-star game when you're going up against the NBA union and the president of the NBA. When you look at what athletes are doing now with their voice, how important is it, in your eyes, for them to speak with their actions or speak with their voice in a unique time in society right now?
Well, no, I haven't followed that much, but I think they will speak with their voice because think about it, the athletes, they control the show. They don't go out there and produce or play anything like that. They have the leverage to do all of this. So I just think that they should use their voice and, what they need to do. And a lot of things have improved. Like insurance, everything else in the league for injuries and stuff like that. So it's much better than it's been. It's not even close.
What was it like to be Jerry West's teammate?
Jerry West's team?
Teammate.
Oh, well, Jerry is probably the toughest, best competitor that I've ever played with or against. Losing, to him is like losing a member of the family. He just goes berserk. I mean, after you lose, I mean, really, you know, it's hard to talk to or anything. You know, he's really a great player, you know, and really, you know, competitor. I mean, he hates losing.